I know my compatriots over here have already got the party started, but I figured I would go ahead and pop open some Buffalo Trace. This is I think this is the second time I've had whiskey since I've had COVID. So I told Caleb last time I popped open Buffalo Trace and it didn't taste right, which is funny because Caleb last time or when he had COVID, I think like in December or so, he had bought a bottle of Old Forester 1910, and he's like, "This is not good." And when I was in Kentucky, I had it for the first time, and I was like, "This is great. Are you sure you had the right bottle?" He's like, I did finish it while I had COVID." So, but yeah, happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Kentucky Downs. I don't know, what do you call the day after, the night of? I don't know. Happy Kentucky Downs night, I guess. But yeah, it was a fun day today betting Kentucky Downs. Myself, I entered myself into the $400 contest. Was right there in a couple of plays, but came up just short. Mark, you were all in the first play of the game and came up a little short. But I really did admire the fact that you went big early, and Caleb did. I don't remember the double he played, but was there a defensive B in there or?
Um, no, but then yes, maybe. Like I don't know. Like he didn't usually have the favorite initially. He had the other Wesley Ward horse, but then the Corrales
Oh, the
Ward horse
scratch.
scratched, so he added the
Yeah,
favorite
he scratched.
defensively. I think so.
Mm,
You know, he wasn't going to, but it was probably actually smart that he did. But ultimately, it didn't matter.
yeah. Mark, what did you think of Kentucky Downs today?
I think it was normal Kentucky Downs, right? Like it was very approachable. Kentucky does one of those things. The big field size is where it gets you, and it's never a horse that beats you there that you go, oh, I never in a million years could have had that horse. It's just a horse you end up on the wrong one. Like you're like, oh, geez, I like these three, and it's some other one you thought, oh, that horse makes sense. It's never completely out of the realm of possibility, but it's a tough place, and it's the fun kind of tough. It's not tough where it just doesn't make sense like a Gulfstream Park or something. It's a tough, fun, big competitive fields, really great racing, awesome venue, beautiful lush green grass that they apparently can grow in parts of Kentucky.
Yeah, I think Andy's asking. I thought they couldn't grow grass in Kentucky. They must have to import it from nearby Tennessee. Tennessee is only I think it's like 10, 15 minutes over the border. So
they don't bring it in from Bermuda.
No, they did not. They don't use Bermuda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Caleb, how did you do today in Kentucky Downs?
I didn't bet much. Didn't do good, but didn't bet much. But still had fun, and I love Kentucky Downs. It's a track I usually do pretty well at. It's a fun sequence to handicap. It's really hard. It's one of those few opportunities in the year where you can get paid, legitimately life-changing scores on horses that aren't that hard to come up with. If you can just get around some big chalks and whatever else. I think the pick 5 in the early paid 40,000 or some 32,000, something like that. And the late paid, it was 5 figures. I don't know what it paid. There was a few pots groups alive.
It was 34. And honestly, I wasn't that far off it. So yeah, no, I tossed a couple of logical horses, and of course I've tossed the wrong logical horses, but yeah, it's right. It's approachable. You can be smart and get your Sharpie out and put a good ticket together, and you can do well.
Yeah, hard to say there's any horse that didn't make sense. Just you gotta, if you're bankroll limited, it's tough to chase those long horizontals.
Yeah, and I think that's what we were talking about. Maybe it was last year. that it's tough to play like a pick 5 or pick 4 there, just because of like the sheer amount of like horses you kind of need to include. I mean, even playing doubles is tough there, but like if you hit, you get rewarded, right? But I definitely think that it's a track that single race bets are a very are a better bet than they normally are at other places. I got to remember what the takeout is, but I know the combined takeout at Kentucky Downs I think is the lowest in the country, if I remember correctly. Or it's second.
Horizontals are 14%. I don't know about the verticals.
Yeah, but I know I think it's either first or second to Charlestown, because I know Charlestown has got the lowest blended takeout, but of the regular tracks. Yeah.
I feel like that can't be true.
That's absolutely true. It's got the lowest blended. It's got the lowest blended takeout. It's absolutely. I'm not even kidding you. I am not even kidding you.
That because
Sam Houston.
I will look it up, but it's got the lowest blend. I couldn't believe it myself, but yeah.
I was just going to answer Sir Lloyd's question. Yeah, they had the rails out at like 40 foot at Kentucky Downs today, and you definitely saw outside, and you saw speed horses I thought were doing pretty well. But yeah, and I think historically there has been a bit of a outside bias, especially in the one-turn races there. So yeah, it does. I don't know how pronounced it is. I'd have to pull up the sheet to check.
Man, I got to remember where I saw that they have the lowest blended takeout.
I mean, I'm just looking at Hannah, which I know doesn't always get updated, but Kentucky Downs beats Charlestown across the board on every single bet, and that's just the first two I compared.
So it might just be the like the regular, like the non-Kentucky Downs track, like the regular meet.
Could be.
But, yeah, Murphy saying F's in the chat for Sam Houston.
What's the takeout on $0 of handle?
That's true. That's going to be. I hear that they're. I don't know. I think that they're gonna hopefully get it figured out by the end of the year. But yeah, we've been talking about Kentucky Downs, and we're actually gonna start with Kentucky Downs. We're gonna take a look at some race, or we're gonna take a look at a race on Saturday and 2 on Sunday here, real quick. But I did want to shout out Nick Feldman. He crushed Saratoga today. I think he hit both the pick 5s. If I'm
ooh, good for you, man.
If I remember correctly, I know he posted on Twitter. But he had a hell of a day today, so shout out Nick. With Mark out this Saturday, Nick. Well, I might message you, see what you're up to on Saturday, because Mark's going to be busy, and we're going to be streaming on Saturday here. So,
what are you drinking, Nick? Celebratory bourbon? What you got?
He did. He said he's got bourbons coming out tonight.
I know. I got to know what it is, though. It's how I evaluate my friends.
Oh, he'll be live at Del Mar, so. We'll have to look elsewhere for talent for Saturday, but yeah, we're gonna do something different. Normally we do it an hour before Del Mar, but we're gonna an hour before Saratoga. But with Pacific Classic Day, I really like the card at Del Mar. We'll be live a little bit later. We'll probably be live around 3 p.m. Central, which is an hour before first post at Del Mar. Actually, I wonder what where that kind of lines up. That's gonna be like the start of the late pick. Or the pick 6 at Saratoga, so maybe we'll play a little Saratoga live as well while we break down Del Mar. But we're going to start a little bit later and just talk some Del Mar since it's their big card. But we're going to start off with Kentucky Downs. Race 10 on Saturday here, the Mint Million. Be going a mile on the Kentucky grown turf. I know it still shocks me as well, Andy. And just like basically every single race at Kentucky Downs, we're gonna have a nice full field here. We got 9 going, which is probably the smallest field you might see all day on Saturday. And look like your morning line favorite is going to be the 3 Pixelate. I believe he won. Did he win this race last year? Yeah, he did. He won this race last year with Joel Rosario aboard. Joel was also winning everything that wasn't nailed down last year. So you're gonna get Flo aboard here, and it's gonna be your morning line favorite here at 5-2. Caleb, I kind of have a feeling I know who you like in this race. I also like him too. So why don't you talk to me about your horse, the 2 Cavalry Charge?
I do like Cavalry Charge in here. I don't know that I would say he's my top selection, but I do like him in this race. So the one thing I think you have to start off with, and you kind of touched on it earlier, is that there are certain angles that I kind of believe work better at Kentucky Downs than they do other places. And horse for course is a huge one at this track. It's a quirky track, right? It's got hills, undulating. It's not necessarily a nice, perfect oval. It's got some goofy bends and an uphill stretch. So a horse that is proven can handle that, or some horses actually improve on that kind of a track, is always something I'm looking for. Cavalry Charge does have a win here from last year. It wasn't an optional claimer, but ran a good race. He's got an ability to be forwardly placed in here, which I think, as we saw today, speed seemed to be pretty good. Not necessarily unbeatable, but it did seem like if you needed to be, in that first pack of horses turning for home. So I think Cavalry Charge sort of fits that trip in here. The distance, shouldn't be an issue at all. He's, a very accomplished miler right around here. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that last race because we know that Churchill's kind of a quirky track. Santon and Smooth Like Straight went 1-2 around the track the entire day on the Arlington Million. This is a much softer spot. So yeah, I think the class drop makes some sense. We already talked on a previous stream about how good Cavalry Charge ran in some of those previous Churchill races in May when he was inside and on the lead on a day when you didn't want to be in either of those positions. So yeah, I mean, this is not the jockey I really want on my turf router, but he did guide him to a second place finish 2 back against Ivar. So, I'm not going to be totally dissuaded from going to Cavalry Charge here. Again, not my top pick, but a horse I'm definitely going to use.
So who is your top pick here?
I went to a far outside number 9 Atone. I guess, without laboring too far into this, I don't like Pixelate at all. I don't see why this horse is supposed to be the favorite. I don't see why this horse is supposed to win this race. That one race that she ran here last year was kind of an aberration. She's never really ran back to that. I thought her last race getting beat at Laurel was pretty bad. She kind of feels like he's supposed to win that race. I don't like Pixelate in here. Florent Drew is a guy that people expect to be good at Kentucky Downs. He was 2 for 32 last year, and that's mostly riding for Brad Cox. I don't think he's a jock that you really want out of the French connection anyway with Give Me Leperoux or even Pratt all day. But yeah, I like Atone in here. This is a horse that I think up until that last race has been keeping much better company, racing mostly in grade 1 and grade 2s up in New York or in Keeneland. Didn't quite get there last time, but truthfully, just missed by a whisker. I think that this is a horse that has probably been pointing to this race for a little while. Mike Maker's barn has been, from the first day anyway, extremely live. Gaffleone's been riding extremely well. So this is the horse that I want the most of. It does seem like you want to be outside. For some reason, it seems like the inside drawn horses haven't done quite as well. So I think this horse is drawn really well. And I'll be pretty happy if I get 9-2.
Yeah, I very much kind of agreed with Caleb in here. Very much the exact same reasons he did not like Pixelate. We're going to probably end up putting that horse right into the winner's circle. But I think Pixelate's kind of off form. I mean, you have to excuse those last couple of efforts. We know the fairground figures have come back a little weird, but you expect more off the layoff in that Laurel race, which seemed to be a pretty darn soft spot. And he just didn't look like he's his old self. So I kind of wonder if his best days are sort of behind him. I think Atone makes a lot of sense. They did scratch Atone from today's card to run in this spot. Mike Maker's obviously very hot. He could have run that, run the horse today if the horse wasn't 100%. I have a feeling that Atone is just really ready to go here. It seems like a really, really interesting spot. And he should get that right trip. You're going to have a few of these, the 4, the 5, the 8, probably the 1 as well. And he should be able to, just kind of develop that sort of pocket trip just behind those and make that real prolonged move that sort of does work at Kentucky Downs. So I think his run style fits really well in the spot. And I think he's probably the horse to beat, at least for me. I did have a little price in here as well that I like, but we'll let Josh talk for a minute.
And I just want to congratulate Mint Million winner Pixelate here. We've just put him into the winner circle. So congratulates. I didn't even do that. I meant to stop.
Oh, standing ovation!
Standing ovation. They keep clapping. I'm also not on Pixelate. I don't really mark PPs up very much, but like when I'm going through for the show, like if something kind of like intrigues me or whatever, I'll just put a little question mark. And like, yeah, I kind of agree with you, Caleb. I guess, yeah, won this race last year. So maybe that's why they made him the short price favorite. But the horse has been off form. I mean, came off of that race, basically did not show up whatsoever, and has not won in 3 straight tries. And I mean, you go from winning a grade 3 to not being able to win a race at Laurel. And yeah, I'm not going to take a short price on you. Horse is out of form. I landed on Cavalry Charge as my top pick. Caleb kind of spoke about this a little bit, but I think that I also saw that Lloyd, I think, made a comment here where he thought that you kind of want to be close to the lead on the mile, especially with the uphill stretch. And I just think that Cavalry Charge is going to be in a good spot. I think that he's going to be forwardly placed. I don't know necessarily if he's going to be on the lead. I mean, he's been on the lead sometimes. He's come from just off of it, 1 or 2 lengths off, and I think that's kind of where you want to be. So I think that Cavalry Charge is going to be in a good spot. Yeah, I mean, it's David Cohen, one of the few people that has me blocked on Twitter aboard, but I'll take my chances. I'll hopefully get a nice price here, 6-1 or so. I'll be happy with. Caleb, I think you just described it pretty well too. We're gonna toss out that Arlington Million, like whatever, like that track is just something else with the way the grass has been, and ran a very respectable race to Ivar at Indiana Grand. So. We tossed that last race. I think this horse will be coming in ready to fire. The other horse I was a little interested in, you guys didn't talk about, was the 4 Grace Fable. Coming off the Ellis win at a mile for was it Michelle, and she was off to a pretty like weak start, but I think she started to pick up a couple of wins. I think starting to get used to riding here in the States. So it says that she's 9%, but I think she's been a little bit better than that the past couple of weeks or month or so. So coming in here for Brian Lynch. Brian Lynch tends to do pretty decent here at Kentucky Downs, and Ellis shippers, they do fine. So it's gonna be kind of a mid price here, 8-1. Kind of once again, this horse last time out came from way off of it, but has also won on the lead. I do know that was on a speed favoring Churchill track, not a speed favoring Churchill track. That was kind of ran against the bias, right? Because Churchill this year was all closers. So I don't know. I just think that this horse is going to come in, going to be under the radar a little bit, coming in off a nice win. People aren't going to know the jockey, and they're going to be like, "What the hell is this?" So I'm going to take the two horses out of apparently a key race at Indiana Grand, the JB Schuster Mile here, and I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 and the 4 here. But Mark, you said you had a price, so I'm guessing what is it going to be, like 7-2 or something here?
You already know.
No, I already kind of Josh, you probably both don't already know who this is. I kind of thought the 8 Injunction was a little interesting. This is a horse that they tried first time on turf and ran horrible, but just basically didn't break. So I'll draw a line through that one and assume that was due to the break. Just due to assume to the horse being really, really, really green. Second time they went to Ellis, got rained off. Horse ran pretty well in the dirt, and they've been on the dirt for the next 9 times after that. You're getting Corrales, who rides this track just about as well as anybody else. He had a win on a big price today. And I thought Injunction made a little bit of sense here just for an outsider. There's some turfy pedigree there. Horse is going to should get the right kind of trip, should be pretty forwardly placed. And again, I realize I'm taking a bit of an outsider, but if I can get the right kind of price, that I think this one could even drift a little, that 12-15-1 range. I think the 8 Injunction's a pretty interesting spot player.
Caleb, did you look at this 5 at all? Bet with both hands.
It's an E8, so I kind of glanced at it. And truthfully, like the two back time form at Hawthorne, if you believe the figure, actually kind of fits in this group. I mean, Timeform has it as a 117, which is the same speed figure, for example, that a Tone ran last time out. That's a good enough figure to put you in the exacta probably of this race. But that is kind of the only fig he has in
That Ellis Park
quite a
fig fits
while.
too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go back to last year, it does. I mean, that's over a year ago, but it does. I mean, so there's a race in this horse that fits. I do sort of wonder if he's good enough to kind of fire back to that. He tried Kentucky Downs last year and he got just crushed in this field. He probably gets the lead here, but I don't think he gets a super easy lead with everything his own way. So yeah, I mean, at 30-1, I mean, this is a horse I would try to maybe work it underneath, but I don't know that I really want him on top.
Yeah, I thought he was interesting. Like I said, like obviously every E8 gets the three cherry stamp of approval. But when I looked back a little bit, the horse's last two races, you look two back, right? Finished third to two Emmys and Captivating Moon, who are both accomplished at this point turf horses. And then last race, you have him coming out of a kind of a key race there with the second place finisher coming back and winning. So I don't know. I thought I still think the last race was probably very, very soft. So, but I don't know. I saw the Hawthorne race. I saw he finished third to two Emmys and Captivating Moon. I started thinking a little bit. Hey, I mean, he got the lead over two Emmys, who seems to be kind of a speedy horse. So, hey, it got the lead over Busy Channel 3 back, and you know how fast that horse is early. So, so yeah, I don't know. I thought he was just interesting, but yeah, I think he's probably a little too slow, and we're gonna need some kind of like severe speed bias, I think, for anything to happen here.
I don't hate it, Josh. I've seen way worse 30-1 shots. I'll put it that way.
Oh, so have I. I've bet him.
Bet every one of them.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to talk about in this race? At least we spent a lot of time on a 9-horse race as
I
opposed
think
to 5
Murph had a
horse.
comment about the favorite in here, thinking he doesn't think Pixelate's a bad fave. Last race at Laurel fractions were slow, and a reason he won't improve second off. Yeah, I mean the second off angle. I mean, I'll acknowledge that. Yeah, he does have a right to maybe step forward second off the bench here. As far as the fractions, I mean, they were slow, but that race was dominated by closers. I mean, horses that were in the back three ran 1, 2, 3. All three horses involved up front faded out the back. So I'm not sure that I'm going to really give him any extra credit for that kind of an effort when it seemed that even with the slow fractions, that's kind of the flow of the race was closers. But yeah, I mean, second off the bench, you're getting a good trainer that does historically pretty well here. I mean, it's not a horse that I'd be adamantly against if he wasn't 5-2, but I don't like to have to make excuses for my favorites, so not a horse I want to bet.
But how much do you think that is Murphy just being a simp for Laurel Park?
I mean, probably like 40%.
Okay.
Only 40? No, I mean, I agree with Murphy's take. I think that's a valid take, and if you want to bet Pixelate, sure. But I think you're trying to make an excuse for a favorite. If Pixelate was 10-1 and I was making that excuse, completely different conversation. It's just the fact of I don't like to have to make excuses for favorites. That just doesn't feel right.
All right, cool. Let's stay on this Kentucky Downs train, and we'll talk about race 9 on Sunday. We got the Exacta Systems Dueling Ground Oaks going 1 mile and 5/16 on the turf.
This is Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday. The races I told you we weren't going to talk about, we ended up talking about it. Yeah. And we got a nice full field here. We actually got AEs. I think we go all the way to 16 with AEs, but I think we're drawing in 12 here. Looks like your morning line favorite is going to be D7 New Year's Eve at 3-1. You got Turner Loose at 7-2. Apparently off the dirt train and back onto turf. And then you got Skims at 5-1, Vergara at 6-1, and then you got everyone else at double digits here. Mark, where did you land on this race?
Yeah, no, I think that the race goes through the favorite here. I think New Year's Eve makes a lot of sense. I wasn't really horribly against that Saratoga Oaks performance. Horse was bumped very hard at the start. Was a bit ranked, took a bit to get settled, and probably didn't have the best trip. Pedigree should be there to get this trip. I thought New Year's Eve made quite a bit of sense, and obviously connections all the way around. I think Brendan Walsh just consistently does pretty darn well at Kentucky Downs. So I thought New Year's Eve made quite a bit of sense in this field. I think, and probably before I ended up there, I should have gone to the fact of there's a lot of horses in here that I really don't think want to go this far. And I think New Year's Eve is one of those ones that probably has the pedigree that she should be able to get the distance. So, just on that fact, I think she makes a lot of sense. And the other horse I thought was pretty interesting here was the 12 Skims, another one that should be able to get the distance. I think the stretch out probably helps this one. I just think the mile races, those two Saratoga starts were both probably a little bit too sharp. I like the stretch out. And I think, I thought Skims made quite a bit of sense in here in a race where, there's a couple prices I like in here, but I think those two were the ones that I was most interested in.
Well, like in some just like weird twist of fate, Mark and I ended up on the same horse. I basically landed on the same two horses. New Year's Eve, I think coming out of that Saratoga Invitational, finishing third to those two horses. I mean, just nobody else in this field has any type of respectable like finish in that quality of a field. Like you got a lot of horses kind of who maybe have had a little bit of success on dirt, trying turf. You got horses like Beechnut Trophy, who like just wasn't even close in the Edgewood, and was sitting off the pace when everything was coming from off the pace. So who knows what happened there? And yeah, I kind of had a hard time, excuse me, getting any of these horses. I mean, I tried to make a case for this 5 Vergara with Joel coming in, but I don't know. I kind of ended up I much preferred the 7 there. And then Mark already talked about the 12 Skims, and that was kind of a pedigree play. I kind of completely agree with Mark. I don't know if there's a ton of distance pedigree in this race, or distance turf pedigree. And with Frankel on top, and Streetcar on the bottom, you shouldn't have any question about this horse getting the distance. So I think this horse has been racing against better. I mean, not quite like the invitational level, and has only been running at a mile. But I think compared to some of these other horses, has been running against pretty decent. Maybe a little bit of concern you get Julian instead of Joel here, but Julian rides fine at Kentucky Downs. I don't think it's
we're inside the state of Kentucky. Julian is fine here.
Yeah. But I'm sure Caleb is, like, if Mark and I are in the same two horses, there's no way Caleb is.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I do like Skims. I guess I'll start with that. I think, we don't need to talk about this horse again, but I think you guys are on the right track with Skims. I don't want.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with New Year's Eve. I've never thought this horse was any good. I thought she was kind of flattered by the track bias at Churchill and her Edgewood Stakes win, and I just don't think she's really shown anything that impressive in any of her other starts. I mean, yeah, she ran third at the Saratoga Oaks. She beat two horses that I've never even heard of, Oakhurst and Contemporary Art. Like, if you could name me either one of those horses, any win they've had, I would be amazed. Or even who trains them, other than guessing off the names. But yeah, I mean, it's a 5-horse field. I'm not going to be impressed that she finished mid-pack. I just don't think this horse is all that talented. And it's going to be overbet, in my opinion. So I'm not going to have that horse. I landed on 2 prices, though, outside of Skims. The first of which was the number 2 Beechnut Trophy. So it seems like, from just judging off what we've seen today in the first day and what we started to see last year, Saffy Joe is targeting this meet. He is sending some of his better horses up here. He didn't have the greatest year at Kentucky Downs last year, but he's already had, was it 2 winners today? It was at least 1. Or maybe, if not 2.
It was 2.
It was
2. It was 2, yeah.
2 winners out of maybe 3 or 4 starters. And all of his horses seem very well meant today. So this is a horse that I thought, I get it, lost New Year's Eve, but it was at Churchill. Like, I'm not really willing to, or I'm not really going to hold that against him too much because we know how that track was playing all spring. This horse also had a bit of a troubled trip that day, never really got clear until the race was basically over, and then hasn't really come back since then. So I like the fact this is a fresh horse coming in. It's a Ramsey homebred. This is a meet that they target pretty heavily and they target pretty aggressively. So I think this is a horse that's going to be extremely well meant in here to pass up all the New York races, all the Ellis races, and to come here. So I definitely like Beach Nut Trophy. Adding the blinkers probably to sit, towards the front, maybe third or fourth, and then get first run in a race that doesn't have a ton of speed signed on, not from the looks of it anyway. And the other one I liked is the number 11, California Angel, kind of going in the opposite direction. This horse actually did beat New Year's Eve last time they faced each other. And I remember I watched that replay because I was watching most of Fairgrounds this winter. And yeah, I see Murphy is also on this horse. Yeah, this horse has some really dirty form. They put her on dirt a couple times, which makes no sense. But this was a really, really good 2-year-old. She won a race at Keeneland from, beyond the parking lot that you're not really supposed to win in the Jessamine. She came back in the Breeders' Cup and just had an impossible draw. She finished 11th, which you may just kind of say, oh, she didn't run, but she was beaten 4 lengths, but finished 11th, and that's after tossing her head and totally blowing the brake. I thought that was a way better race than it looked. And then she came back in that Fairgrounds race, and if you read the running lines, she went to the 10 path. The rails were out that day, and she was literally skimming the stand side rail. So I think this is a horse that has had some bad luck with trips, has been on the wrong surface, and probably gets overlooked in here, but I really think she has a big shot. Those are two prices I like.
I was just going to say, I very much like her as well. She was the one that I kind of mentioned I had a price I wanted to loop back to, and that was California Angel. Her pedigree also, of anyone in the field, she arguably has the best distance pedigree in here. She has a pedigree that kind of screams that she should be able to get this. So at least on what I'm looking at.
You said the word pedigree on a California Chrome horse?
I did.
Okay.
They must be getting the distance pedigree off the bottom end.
That's isn't that like betting Union Rags on turf? Or dirt, actually, because he sucks on both surfaces, apparently.
It's Tomlinson's distance figures, so they very much say that this is a very good distance for this horse. So, given pedigree, take it for what it is. There's on her pedigree, she shouldn't be a great turf horse either. So, there's always those aberrant horses, but I really wonder, especially with her run style, she does tend to come out of the clouds. Maybe distance is, going a little further is good for her.
Thanks,
Mark.
She
finished off the races. She seems like she'd run all day, and she's exactly the track. She broke.
And I don't know why they haven't. Maybe they just didn't have a shot, but I don't know why they haven't stretched her out kind of before this. You would assume that maybe just no good shots or no good target races. But no, I think it's a very interesting spot for her.
Thank you, Mark, Amazon Packer Capitan, for the pedigree breakdown there on the California Chrome horse. I couldn't get there. Although, normally when I see a horse get to the 10 path, I'm like, let's get a different jockey board. Maybe we get a little bit better. Oh, apparently they're going to stick with Deshaun Parker after going in the 10 path last time out. Maybe he'll be in the 9 path this time. Who knows?
I would. Does anybody know why Bejarano isn't here? Because there's been 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's here.
And he's. I would say there was 3 or 4.
I don't know if he's here on Sunday, but he was here today.
Yeah, he's got mounts in the 1st, the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th.
Okay, then. Because there were mounts today that I was looking at. I was like, Bejarano was on this horse last out, and he's not here, and it just felt odd. So, okay.
Yeah, no, he's here. He's got a mount in this race. Who's he on? Is he on the AE? Yeah, he's got to be on the AE. He's on the 15, who I think Murphy also liked. Murphy liked the 15 here. He said if the 15 manages to draw in, he'd use her too. So he didn't say much more on that, but apparently he likes the 15 that draws in. But all right, let's get on to race 10 here. Did you guys have anything else on that race? No,
I'm good.
Mile and 5/16 here on the turf. Big ass fans, Dueling Grounds Derby, Grade 3. And I believe, much like the other race, we're going to have a nice full field here. We got 12 plus 2 AEs. Your morning line favorite is going to be the 6 double clutch. The 12, ready to perform at 3-1. You got a couple horses here kind of close. Double clutch, Running Beat, Grand Sonata, Dripping Gold. and then you got double digits on everybody else. I did like the favorite here a bit. I mean, the horse last time out just went wire to wire, just absolutely destroyed some loser horse named Wit. And yeah, I don't know. I really like this. With the way the track played today, I was really looking for horses that were going to be forwardly placed. And I thought the 12, I mean, definitely fit the bill. You get Joel aboard, who, like I said, just winning everything that was nailed down last year. He rides very, very well here at this track. I was kind of going to take like a 1-2 punch approach to this. I'm going to take who I think the best forwardly placed speed horse is, and I'm going to kind of come back and run back with a horse I think is going to come off the pace. And that's a 7 running B for Chad Brown and Vinny Cheminot. I thought that last race at Saratoga, it looks like they've tried to keep this horse very, very far back. And obviously that first race at Monmouth, I don't know what the heck happened. The fake Chad sirens went off right here, obviously starting at Monmouth. But he did decide to run the horse back at Belmont and then Saratoga, where he finally broke its maiden. So I think this horse just needed a little bit. English Channel, obviously, distance pedigree should be fine. Vinny likes riding on the turf. I mean, he's been sitting in kind of the doldrums of Indiana and Kentucky riding on the turf, but he's winning at 21% on the turf. Chad found fit to call him up for this one, and I kind of like this horse from coming off the pace here, and especially if I'm going to get a price around 6-1. Like I would gladly take kind of a mid price here. So I'm going to kind of, like I said, do 1-2 punch here with who I think is going to be good on the lead, with one coming from off the pace. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so I guess I agree with you on the favorite, Ready to Perform. I think that's a colt that looks awfully good in here. Nothing against him. I won't have a single fucking dime going through your Chad Brown horse. Not a dime. I mean, Rosario's in town and Chad Brown goes to Vinny. Like, there's no chance. Yeah, the Monmouth Chad, like, this is a takeout reducer. I'm disappointed in you. Anyway,
I'll do it again for you.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to go through all the Kentucky Down races, and Josh isn't going to pick a single Corrales horse, and I just don't even know who I'm talking to anymore. But you can basically take so like I said, I like the favorite here, Ready to Perform. I'm sure Mark probably will take the Corrales horse or one or two others, so I'll let him talk about that. So you can basically just repeat everything I said last race for this race on the number 2 horse. It's a Saffie Joseph horse. It's a Ramsey Homebred. It's a horse that I think is really well meant, and it has some dirty form. This horse debuted on turf, ran fine, came back and ran much better, broke his maiden, got put in an allowance at Keeneland and kind of just missed after closing pretty strong. Got buried inside on a super dead rail at Churchill, and then for some reason went to dirt for his next 2 starts, not the right surface. This is a very turfy pedigree. This is a very turfy horse. Coming out of a really, really quick workout on August 28th, blinkers on. I think this horse is going to show more speed in a race that really has almost no apparent speed signed on. So wouldn't it surprise me to see this horse get the lead, or at the very least sit second. And I think this horse has a huge chance at 20-1.
Doesn't Ready to Perform kind of get the lead here pretty damn easily? I mean, are you just assuming they're going to really send it to?
Well, I mean, Ready to Perform might be the other horse that gets the lead, but that's the first time the horse has been within 3 lengths of the lead in his career. So, was that a function of tactics, just no speed in the race? I don't know. The horse probably does get the lead, but I'm thinking the 2, I mean, who gets in front of the 2, I guess, is kind of who else might go?
Yeah, no, I get that. No, I get it. I don't hate the take at all. It was not the horse that I kind of had on the lead. So, I think we're all going to end up on the same top choice, and that's the 12, Ready to Perform. Horse makes a lot of sense. Seems super well meant. This seems like a really nice spot. Cox is going to Rosario again here, and that Hall of Fame that went really well. I think the either stretch out and distance should be fine, and Rosario is, I think the last couple of years he's shown that he can definitely do good stuff from the front end. So I think the 12. the 12 here ready to perform makes a lot of sense. I had a lot of other sort of players in here. Caleb threw me under the bus, so I guess I got to talk about Kittenden, the 4. The horse does make a lot of sense. I thought made some sense in here. Corrales does have a win across the turf for this one. Go to mile 8th at Churchill. Another horse that should handle the stretch out fine. Point of entry over APND. Again, pedigree says this one should be able to run all day. And getting the stretch out here seems pretty interesting. And I don't know. I think if you get past the sort of the 12, if you are somebody who's saying, geez, I don't know if I love Ready to Perform, there's a lot of other directions you could, you could go in here. And Kittenden is one of the ones that I thought made a lot of sense, but I could talk about 10 other horses. We could spend 2 hours on this race if you really felt like it.
Yeah, Charles mentioning that he likes the outside posts at Kentucky Downs. So if you're someone who likes the outside posts, I mean, I don't know how you look past the 12 here.
Yeah, I think that outside post bias is less pronounced going 2 turns than it is. It's clearly there on the 1-turn races with the funny downhill section where outside posts are definitely very advantageous, but I don't know if it's as pronounced going 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Murphy says he really likes he keeps coming back to the 9, dripping gold.
I
thought that
if
horse.
anyone else liked that horse? That's
I
my
like
second
that horse.
pick.
Yeah.
Well, third pick, I suppose, but yeah, good. It's a horse I like.
Yeah, he thinks the figures are on the quick end. More forwardly placed, probably gets the distance fine. But Mark, what were you gonna say?
No, all the reasons that Murphy, Murphy sort of mentioned here. Horse that, again, sort of a more forward running style. You're getting Julian, and he decides to hop on this one. It looks like he probably could have gone on a couple of others here. I would imagine this is a horse and the horse ran pretty damn well last out going, in that Saratoga race. So it seems like this one will definitely, both top and bottom should definitely be able to handle the distance. And yeah, this might be a horse that wants to go a little further. So no, I thought the 9 made a ton of sense in here. So couldn't agree with Murphy much more.
Anybody else that you guys want to talk about here?
I think we covered, 2, 9, 12, and 4 were the horses I liked in this race a little bit. And I think
any look to the 3 in here, Caleb?
Well, Mark didn't really wax poetic about the 4 like he thought he was going to. So besides Corrales, is there another reason you like this 4?
Yeah, I think that's another horse that the stretch out probably helps.
Wow, Caleb, you shaved.
Yeah.
I was going to say, wow, Caleb, you shaved since I was talking to Caleb and Mark just jumped in. Mark, so Caleb, you were going to say?
Yeah, it's partially a pedigree play for me, I think, just that this horse, he just seems like he should want to run all day, and you're also getting Corrales back up, who was aboard for the most recent win. This horse has closed at tracks like Gulfstream, where you typically don't see horses come from the clouds, and then closed at Churchill, where I think he probably ran with the bias at 40-1. But I thought that was a good field that he beat. Grand Sonata he beat, who came back to run like 4th in one of the big turf Triple Crown races. So I just think that we saw Corrales pull off a great ride earlier today. I just think that there's enough reasons at 10-1 that, to me, if I was taking the best closer in the field, it'd be this horse. I think he's got the biggest kick, and you have one of the best jockeys in the colony picking them out.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, Caleb, any love for the 3 in here? You find that horse interesting at all? You're getting Talamo, gonna be a price, and the horse does have a win going. I realize it's not exactly the distance, but quote unquote going this distance.
No, not for me.
Okay.
What's a little interesting about this 3, and I don't know. I guess Joe Talamo, but look at his last 4 races. He's been going against older. And now he's coming back into a restricted 3-year-old race. I just think that's weird. Because I was looking at his PPs, I was like, Red Knight. Why the heck is he going up against Red Knight? And I looked at as a 3-year-old and up race. He finished second in an allowance race once again to 3-year-olds and up. Finished second to a 3-year-old, and broke his maiden in the 3-year-old and up race. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting that they've tried this horse against older already, but.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. Another one, again, for those pedigree plays of a horse that can go all day, definitely needs to take a step forward. I'm not going to argue against that, but Yeah, I thought it was one if you're looking for a price, probably more likely to get an underneath type, but a bit of an interesting price for an underneath type.
So Brian's saying that today pretty much every horse came from 4 lengths or better at first call, only one exception. Does he mean closer? 4 lengths or closer, or further than
I'm
4
assuming it'll be
lengths?
4 lengths or closer because I didn't see many horses come from way off the pace.
There
Although at
was
first
one.
call, maybe that's a different. I'm looking more at the second call.
Yeah. But I mean that would mean that you got to get out of the gate well, and you got to get positioned quickly. Otherwise, you might just get shuffled back and have no shot, or less of a shot. But yeah, but I don't know. They're gonna be fun cards. Like I said, we'll be live on Saturday. While basically all three, like these 2 cards are going on in Saratoga and Del Mar. So I'm sure Caleb and I and a guest to be named later will be looking at some of these other races as well. But there was much to Evil Bob Dole's chagrin, we're going to cover 2 races in 10 seconds. All right. Congratulations in the Saranac to Annapolis for winning. Congratulations in the Flower Bowl to Warlock Goddess for winning. I'm not going to even ask you guys if you have any opinions in that race because there's absolutely no reason you guys have any opinions in that race.
Wait, don't we own
Done.
Saranac in fantasy? No, I mean Annapolis.
I think we do.
Yeah, there we go.
So, right. No, I mean, like, Warlike Goddess is not losing, and I don't see how Annapolis loses that race, but I don't even think we talk.
On both counts, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're done. Race 11, though, Jockey Club Gold Cup, also known as the Woodward, was an added 1/8 of a mile. We're going to have the return of Olympiad, return of American Revolution, to horses that tried to beat Speaker's Corner and Life is Good and just couldn't, if I remember correctly. But I mean, they're going to be your short price favorites in this one. What?
I was saying we were looking at this race, and when the first thing you went, you pulled up the PPs and you went, "Wait, Tax is still running?" I think.
Yeah, who was the one that you were surprised about?
Tax was the one.
I was
Okay.
surprised Tax too.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of funny because when I was talking with Mark before the show, like we started, I really tried to make a case for Tax.
I know you did.
I really tried to make a case for Tax. Much like our friend Chase tried to make a case for Thace. I'm going to try and make stacks with Tax. But
I'm on board now. I'm on board.
no, I thought he was interesting in this spot because, I thought he was starting to get pretty good. Like he had run some nice races. And I was like, all right, finally, like they're going to let this horse run it older. Like, yeah, like as a 3-year-old, he wasn't the best 3-year-old, but he's still running. And then he basically needed 10 months off after just an absolutely brutal Pacific class, or not Pacific, Pegasus World Cup. But came back and won nicely at a race at Delaware Park. I mean, he was the short price favorite, won on the lead uncontested. But I kind of looked at this race, and I think he might get the lead here. And I mean, yeah, he's not, he's not maybe the same class of horse as some of these other horses, but I don't know. I think it's always dangerous if you can get a horse there out in the lead. I mean, Olympiad has got better pace figures early than he does, but Olympiad has seemed to be absolutely content letting the horse just get in front on him. So I don't know. I thought Tax was a little interesting here on a pace play. But my top pick in this race is actually going to be Dynamic One, the 8 horse here, winner of the Suburban, coming back in here. I don't know. I just don't think that. I think that last race kind of exposed Olympiad a little bit. American Revolution has just completely kind of gone off form. And so I kind of wanted a horse, kind of like a new shooter in this spot. And, I was kind of between First Captain and Dynamic One. in this race. I ended up on Dynamic One. I think that First Captain and Tax will kind of end up as B types for me if I am playing anything at Saratoga, which I'm not entirely sure yet. But just looking at this race, I don't know. I thought Dynamic One's coming in the best form. Won a nice race and the Blame. Beating some nice horses, and then came back and beat, I don't know, half the field in this race in the Suburban. So, running at the same distance here at Saratoga, and yeah, I just like Dynamic One here the best, and hopefully he remains the third choice here, and I get maybe a little bit of value here. But Mark, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, no, we were talking about this race beforehand, and you brought up Tax, and the first thing I kind of was like, do you realize, Josh, that the two worst races of Tax's career were the two races that he ran where he wasn't on Lasix, and oh yeah, he's not getting Lasix in here. I really wanted to like Tax as well, just because he's going to be a bit of a price. From a pace dynamics, he's a little bit of an interesting horse, but after noting the Lasix thing, obviously he ran both times he ran the peg, he absolutely ran abysmally. So I ended up landing on the 5 American Revolution. I think your likely favorite is Olympiad, and I just don't trust any of the figures coming out of those Churchill races, and I don't really necessarily trust any of the Fairgrounds races either. He came up. His Whitney was just honestly too bad to kind of be believed. I realized he ran into Life is Good, and Life is Good's an absolute monster, but I wanted to see him run a little bit of a better race than he did, and it's a bit of a head scratcher. Maybe he rebounds and fires huge here. Bill Mott obviously is way smarter about training horses than I will ever be. But I thought American Revolution made a lot of sense. They skipped out on the Whitney to land in this spot. It seems like a horse that's kind of being placed or being managed really well, and he doesn't need. His time form says he's the fastest horse in the race, unless you believe that Stephen Foster Fig out of Olympiad. So I thought American Revolution made a ton of sense in here. With Joel up, and obviously Joel stayed in town here to ride this when he could be at Kentucky Downs. So.
Any concern with the fact that Luis Saez is not on American Revolution, is instead on First Captain?
I don't necessarily know what happened there. It does scare. Yeah, it is a little concerning. I sort of head scratch at it, but I don't know. I don't know what happened there, and I'd love to know the backstory behind it. I am somebody that chases that kind of thing. So yeah.
Caleb, are you on the Olympiad train?
No, I'm not. I've never thought Olympiad was that good. I think he was kind of exposed last time out, like you said. And this is a pretty quick turnaround for a horse that is coming off of a kind of a disappointing performance. There's no really way to sugarcoat that. And I think it's too far for him on top of everything else. This is a Spadestown horse that, he's gone 1 1/8, but 1 1/4 is a different beast. And he's not proven at this distance. I don't think he's going to improve at this distance. So for me, as the favorite coming off of a very disappointing effort, I don't want anything to do with Olympiad. I'm kind of with you, Josh, and to a lesser extent, Mark. Dynamic One, I think, is the horse that, as gross as this feels to say, he probably wants this distance more than anybody else. He kind of proved that in the Suburban, overcoming a slow pace to get up by a nose over First Captain. It looks like this is maybe just a late blooming kind of horse that finally figured it all out. So I do like Dynamic One in here. The only other horse I kind of had an interest in was American Revolution, but there's just so many red flags about this horse that aren't related to the horse itself. Josh kind of brings up the fact that Saez gets off. To me, that is extremely concerning. Saez has been on this horse for, 7 out of his 9 career starts and pretty much all of his career wins, and he sees fit to jump on to First Captain. I don't understand what happened, but that makes me really anxious. They scratched this horse out of the Whitney because they just knew he was that much worse than Life is Good. And maybe he is, but the fact that you don't even want to run him in that race, I don't, there's so much going on here that I just, it makes me nervous. The horse's form on paper looks great, but the fact that there's so many red flags around the way that he got to this race and who's riding him and everything else, it makes me a little anxious to go bet that horse at 3-1.
But Caleb, if you have a Ferrari, you'll leave the Miata at home.
But the entire way this horse has been managed for his entire career has been kind of suspect to me. The fact that they kind of put him through state bred ranks. This is China Horse Club and Windstar. Like they spend money. And the fact they brought him through the New York breds, they threw him in the Pennsylvania Derby, and he ran well. He got third to Hot Rod Charlie and Midnight Bourbon, and then they put him in another state bred race, and then he wins a grade 1, and they bring him back in the Blame Stakes at Churchill, and then a grade 2 at Stephen Fall. Like everything about the way this horse has been matured kind of leads me to believe the connections don't think he's as good as his form would tell you. And I have a hard time betting a horse like that at 301.
Lloyd here seeing that if he was an owner, he'd have IRED off all his horses, holding out on his fines and gets suspended. A lot of other good jocks in that New York Riding Colony. Oh, because I think he was talking because Charles was talking about how the dynamics of races change at Saratoga with the exit of a few good jockeys. Yeah, I don't know how was Saratoga today, Mark. I didn't play at all since I was focused on Kentucky Downs. Was there any weirdness going on with the rides or anything like that?
It looked like dirt closers were a lot better than they've been in quite a while. But beyond that, there's, it's definitely a different jockey colony. So you're getting some definitely different rides. You're used to certain jocks behaving in certain ways. And yeah, I mean, Jose won, I think he won, I don't know, 5 or something. He did really well with, obviously somewhat of a diminished jockey count. He can kind of have his way. So I think he's just going to end up on the best mounts. I don't want to say it was really bizarre. One day is hard to, it's not enough sample size to really make any distinctions on. But yeah, it was different.
Charles likes keep me in mind in
Was
this
it
spot.
different? It feels like, I mean, there was nobody at Kentucky Downs who would have been at New York today that I can remember.
Tyler?
I mean, anyone that would matter.
There was a bunch of jockeys that didn't have any mounts. Javi didn't have any mounts today. I don't. Rad was off. I think Dylan is off as well because he's suspended or something. So there was a bunch of just normal Naira jocks that, for whatever reason, weren't on mounts.
Yeah. So Charles here saying that he likes keep me in mind in this spot a little bit. Any interest in keep me in mind?
I mean, it's the horse. Go ahead, Mark.
I would say I tried to get to him as well. He probably needs a bit of an improvement off from last year's form. He's been away for a really long period of time, but I mean, Todd's second off numbers are really good. He kind of seems like the other Pletcher in here. I wouldn't hate for somebody that liked him if you could make a good case for him. He's failed a bunch of times going this distance. It doesn't quite seem like he wants to go this far. And yeah, I have to squint a little too hard when I think there's other more interesting players that are a little more likely.
I mean, he was campaigned very, very aggressively as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, he got burned out.
And then, he's basically came off a year layoff and won a race, switching to the Pletcher barn, an allowance race too.
I can't imagine a year layoff was the plan there, right? Like, I can understand, okay, you have the race in August, maybe you bring it back in February at Gulfstream or something, after turning him out for a couple months and letting him mature. I don't imagine the plan was. I would imagine there were some setbacks. And they did find a soft spot, or I don't want to say a soft spot. It was a high-end allowance to get him, to get a race into him. I guess maybe being a 4-year-old, he can get a little more distance now. Maybe that's that helps him, helps with the endurance. But I mean, when was his since that allowance win, prior to that, he hadn't won since November of 2020. Didn't have a single win in his 3-year-old season. I don't know. I mean, if you have that opinion, you're definitely going to get paid for it.
I don't hate the horse. He should improve second off the layoff. I thought visually, passing the eye test last time for sure. But clearly something went wrong after the Travers. I don't know what it was, but yeah, like Mark said, not the plan, but that's okay. I mean, things don't go to plan. You're into Pletcher's barn now, and you're coming off of a nice win. I mean, should improve off of that. I mean, I think this horse makes some sense. I mean, wouldn't be in my top 2 or 3 here, but wouldn't talk anybody off the horse either.
I mean, are you expecting Pletcher to move a horse up out of the Dio barn?
I mean, he just did.
Okay, you win.
So let's congratulate Jockey Club Gold Cup winner Olympiad here. Put him just right into the winner's circle. So, all right, cool. Yeah, Saratoga's card on Saturday, a little lackluster, I thought, just with the two stakes races kind of before this, kind of looking uninteresting. But I thought this was an interesting race. Hopefully, I don't remember if Naira's running their $50 win bet special, but if they are, I might fire a win bet here at Dynamic One. But let's move on to I think what the card of Saturday, the best card on Saturday, the one that we'll be probably focused on for our live show on Saturday. The Saturday starting gate will be live at 3 p.m. Central or 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 hour before first post at Del Mar. And yeah, we got a lot of races here. Let's start here with race 7 at Del Mar Mile. We're going to be going a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. I believe the morning line favorite is the 5 Hong Kong Harry. And I was interested in the 5 Hong Kong Harry here a little bit. But, you know, I also needed him last race at a pretty decent price. Or I think it was like 3.5 to 1 or something. And he came up just short to Masterpiece. It sounds like they're cutting him back at a distance where he's had success before. But, I mean, he's also had success at a mile and an eighth. So, yeah, I don't know. Pratt gets aboard again. So I was interested again in Hong Kong Harry. I think my top pick, though, is going to be the 3 Irideo here with Hector Barrios getting aboard. Won on this horse last time out here at Del Mar, going the mile, going this trip. Came from pretty far off of it. Had a nice little split move and found some space and won at 31 to 1. You're not going to get 31 to 1 at this time, but I don't know. I thought that was a pretty impressive win. Has a win over the track, so coming in with good form. So my top pick here was the 3 Irideo. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Real similar to you, Josh. I'm probably even a little more bullish on Hong Kong Harry than you are. I thought that he really should be 4 for 4 domestically. He had a really, really bad break in that last time out at the Eddie Reed. It says pinball checked early, similar comment as you get for the 7 Cathkin Peak, but I think that Hong Kong Harry definitely had the worst of the break. He got shut off and shuffled way back. I won't say just missed, but made the best run in the race for behind a horse, Masterpiece, who was probably never losing that day. So yeah, I think that Hong Kong Harry makes a ton of sense in here, and I have nothing more to add really, other than what you said. I'll be pretty aggressive through him. I do like your 3 Irideo. What would you call him?
Irideo, I think.
Yeah, there we go. But Hong Kong Harry for me looks like a horse that I can get pretty aggressive to.
Yeah, I saw it much like Josh. I think Irideo was my top choice in here just because I think I'm going to get a little bit of a price. I think Hong Kong Harry ends up being quite short in here. Makes a ton of Hong Kong Harry makes a lot of sense in here. But I don't know. I wanted to go to a horse that I see Barrios get up on and move the horse forward, right back at the same trip and across the same surface, and thought Irideo made a lot of sense. So I'll land there. Not that I'm chasing the hot jock, but I'm definitely chasing the hot jock.
It doesn't sound like you at all.
He's actually cold, believe it or not. After starting off with a couple of bombs, he's sort of come back to earth lately.
Yeah, I just noticed that he's only 14% on the meet. So, yeah, he makes a lot of sense. I mean, any love for either the 6 or the 7 here?
I mean, the 7, yeah, a little bit. I think that between the 5 and the 7, I think the 5 is a much better horse after having similar trips. But the 7, if he gets a better trip and the 5 gets a bad trip, I mean, he could win. So I don't mind the 7. I mean, the 6. Is there any reason you like him besides 1?
No,
Okay.
no reason behind Juan besides Juan. I mean, time for him kind of said his figures somewhat fit, but there was a bunch of horses in here that I kind of head scratched at because it seemed like as they step up in company to this sort of a level, they just don't bring their best, and you can make that pretty good argument for that for a lot of this field, the 6, the 7. I mean, obviously Hong Kong Harry had some excuses last out, so I'll draw a line through that, but just an interesting, definitely an interesting race here.
Yeah, I mean, like the other horse I tried to make kind of a case for was going to be the 1 Air Force Red.
Of course it was.
The inside. Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting that Johnny V gets aboard here for Leonard Powell on the speed horse here on the stretch out. But I just kind of thought that there was going to be a little bit of speed in this race. So I thought with the 1 in here, I thought the 6. Goliad has shown some speed, and he might go a little bit. And it's not like it's not like we're over in the East Coast here, right? These West Coast shocks, if they think they have some speed, they're going to go. Figueretti has also shown some speed, so I just really was kind of like not interested in trying to take one of the speed horses. That's kind of what talked me off the 6. I was a little interested in the 7, but then I'm like, all right, I'm taking the top 2 choices plus a medium price, and so I was like, I preferred Hong Kong Harry much more than the 7 Cathkin Peak.
Caleb, you mentioned earlier that you felt like you didn't know Josh anymore. And the fact that Josh doesn't love this 8 makes me feel like I don't know Josh anymore either. I mean, Josh, there's a Chilean horse in the field.
It's only going a mile. It's only going a mile. If he was going a mile in like 3/8 or more, then yeah, I'd be all over it.
Okay. So it's
I
just
will
the distance.
say, if I had to make a case for a price in this field, I would go to the 2, Tarantino. This is a horse that was only beaten like less than 2 lengths by Hong Kong Harry last time they faced each other, and seems to have ran a much better race at Del Mar when he broke his maiden back in September of 2020. So he's kind of proven at the trip, proven at the course here. I know Juan gets off, but Mike Smith honestly has been riding really well lately and doesn't take a ton of mounts. So the mounts he does tend to pick up are generally pretty live and pretty well meant. So I don't think he's going to have this horse anywhere near the lead, which I think is a good thing given some of the pace set up in this race. But I think that he ran a better race than it looks last time in the American. I think that race came back. The horse that was dueling with Tarantino actually finished last. So I think Tarantino was best of the speeds that day in a race that tended to go back to the closers. So I think he might be able to work out a little bit more of a patient trip here and might surprise a little bit. If you look 2 back, you see Law Professor, who won that off the turf affair in the Mathis Brothers Mile, and Law Professor came back to win today at Kentucky Downs. So I think there's some sneaky good form, and you're getting a jockey upgrade that I wouldn't say is an upgrade per se, but is that maybe a better fit for the horse with a guy who's a little more patient in a race that does seem to have a lot of speed.
Turf God, Mike Smith. Murphy actually says that if he actually didn't mind a 10 with the back class. And also, I thought it was funny because you said you liked the horse Tarantino, and I was like, man, that sounds like a Baffert horse. Like, because Baffert's got all those fucking, he's got all those like horses that are named Spielberg. We're waiting for who's the guy who did Star Trek and Star Wars now? Stephen Fox will know. He'll tell me. But he's some other big name, director, like one of his friends or something, whatever. Anyways, Murphy liked the 10 here, Astronaut. He says there's a bit of back class, but he thinks that 8 furlongs might be too short for the horse.
Yeah, I think the horse needs like 12 furlongs, honestly.
And then he said Moger is coming up on 2 winless years at Del Mar if you can't snag a win before the meet is over. And that's the trainer of your horse there, with Turf God Mike Smith. Some say Alvin Kamara is the Mike Smith of fantasy football. Anything else in this race you guys want to talk about?
Nope.
All right, let's move on. Race 9, Del Mar Derby. Going a mile and 1/8 here. Oh, sorry, the Caesars Sportsbook Del Mar Derby. Mile and 1/8 here on the turf. 3-year-olds. Once again, I mean, I think this has kind of been the story of Del Mar. I mean, they're getting fields here. Got 9 horses here. 5-2 favorite is Balnikov, I think. Yeah. And you got McKinnon here at 3-1, Cabo Spirit 4-1, Dandy Warhol 4-1, Ward C 6-1. Slow down Andy, and then you got a couple of long shots in this spot. Mark, where did you land in this race?
Yeah, I being the time form whore that I am, I actually ended up on the 1, Cabo Spirit. This is a horse that seems to be in pretty darn good form right now. Is 2 for 3 across the surface, so handles Del Mar really well. And I don't think the distance, the slight bit longer here, really hurts this one. So I thought she'd get a similar pace setup to that sort of last out race. Joe Bravo has been riding really, really well out at Del Mar, and I thought Cabo Spirit made a ton of sense. And actually, when I capped that, he is my lone A in this race. So I'm sort of against some of the other more outside drawn horses, like like somebody like the McKinnon or Balnikov. So whoa! I said I'm against them. That's like the opposite of a defensive B. That means I'm tossing favorites. Don't I get like extra bonus credit for this or something? There we go. Okay, so
I'm also on the 1 Cabo Spirit. I have not looked at time form, but horses ran pretty well here at Del Mar. Won the La Jolla handicap last time out, and is coming in here, I think, in some nice form. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a shot here with Cabo Spirit. Not really a shot, but he's not my lone A. I have 2 A's in this race. I'm also going to use Turf God, Mike Smith, here on the 3 Ward C, who actually beat Cabo Spirit last time he ran in the cinema. Has been on a little bit of a layoff and is coming back here. Ron Ellis not exactly known for winning graded stakes or winning off a layoff, but I think the fact that Mike Smith has ridden this horse 3 times in a row, has won all 3 times, and has beaten who I think is probably the best horse in this race in Cabo Spirit, I'm going to have to include. So I'm going to be using the 1, the Cabo Spirit, and I'm also going to use the 3 here, War at Sea. Caleb.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I like War at Sea and Cabo Spirit. I don't need to really rehash anything there. Another horse that I will include is going to be the 5, Dandy Warhol. I just think that this is a horse that has a ton of promise, but is going to need some help. This is a very one-dimensional, one-run closer kind of horse that will need a pace to develop in front of him. And looking at the form here, it doesn't really seem like there's a ton of speed. Maybe Slow Down Andy gets the lead, and then beyond that, there isn't a ton. So I'm not going to have like a ton going for Dandy Warhol, but I thought that Pratt getting on here is a horse that I thought was pretty interesting. Being able to close from as far back as he has in that last start was pretty impressive. So yeah, but my first 2 picks would be the 1 and the 3, the 2 horses you guys talked about. I'll be against Balnikov. I'm just not really convinced he's improved at all. I think he's fine, but I'm not really sure he's actually improved in the 4 starts he's been here. And I think other horses here have shown more of a pattern that would suggest a step forward.
Yeah, Murphy really likes the 6 St. Anthony on time form. He thinks it's pops off and gets buried.
I mean, it does if you believe it, but I think they timed that race like a sundial.
Because what was that, Santa Rosa last out? Yeah. So yeah, he says, but that was at a California fair track. Also, Brian Muller here is saying, I thought Mark was a Beyer fan.
I replied back to him in chat. I've been using a lot more time form, and I've kind of moved over to being more of a time form fan, especially on turf these days. So I don't want to say Beyers are wrong or bad or anything else. They definitely serve their purpose, and I like to compare them to time form. But I tend to lean on time form more these days.
I will say it. Buyers are wrong and bad.
And useless, and they create overlays for other horses.
I just it's funny because I always like to tell people, like, if you want to know who ran the best buyer last out, just look at the favorite. I mean, so.
Yeah, but you can also there was also the argument, I know last year, so the 2021 racing season at Saratoga, if you bet the fastest last out buyer at Saratoga, it had a positive ROI. So, I mean, you can say that, but yeah. And I also did like the 6 St. Anthony a touch in here. I thought, I mean, I realized that last figure may be a little too good to be true, but the 2 back figure, it was okay as well. So, would need to improve, but you're getting Hector Barrios, and I heard he's the new Turf Jesus or something. Even though he may have cooled off. Well, what's up with that?
So no one likes the 2 short prices in here. How McKinnon or Balnikov?
No, they're gonna go 1-2 now.
Bolnikov wouldn't surprise me if he wins. I don't want anything to do with McKinnon. I mean, this is a horse that was a very precocious 2-year-old and has not improved at all as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, but my issue with Balnikov is he's basically run the same 4 races in a row, and there's a couple horses in here that either have a right to improve or have already won or run faster races. So, Balnikov is. I really wonder as this year, doesn't improve from 2 to 3 type horse. And I mean, he's fine. He could win, sure. But I thought there were other horses that were much more interesting. And I don't know. McKinnon I've never liked McKinnon. Still don't like McKinnon. No.
Charles asking, where does Glatt get all these really nice Ireland bred horses?
That's a fair question.
And Jay says he's waiting for the fake chat alert. I don't know if we had one yet.
We did. It was the one you picked.
Yeah. You like the horse.
I like the horse.
I
put the fake chat alert on myself, didn't I?
You did. You bought yourself. You owned it.
You know what's funny is all I could think of when I looked at McKinnon's PPs is where's Blackadder, because that's the one I'd be more interested in, not McKinnon. But Jay, good point. Glatt gets all those Irish bred horses from Ireland. So thank you, Jay, for solving that mystery for us. I wasn't interested in either of the favorites, so I'm sure that one of them's going to win. I think I kind of agree with you guys about Balnikov is the more interesting of the 2, but I like these other horses well enough that I'll let a 2-1 horse beat me, which he'll probably go off at since Rispoli's aboard. But let's get to the good one here. 1.25 miles, Pacific Classic, Grade 1, $1 million, 3-year-olds and up. And we draw a pretty good field here. We only drew 6 horses, but I think for West Coast, I think they're the right 6. Extra Hope, Express Train, Country Grammar, Royal Ship, Stiletto Boy, and Flightline. Flightline is 1 to 5 on the morning line. Who here is going to bet Flightline?
Okay, I think you
Mark's
have
definitely
answer.
Flightline.
Before you ask that question, bet Flightline in what way?
Mark has never seen a 1 to 5 he didn't like.
No, I mean, I think you have the Flightline question. You have to ask it a little differently. How are you going to use Flightline? If you're in a horizontal and you're not somebody with a big budget, you're going to single Flightline horizontally, which is what everybody's going to do. If I'm playing a tournament, no way in hell do I have Flightline on any ticket. I think it's all about your approach here and how you look at the race. Is he the most likely winner? Of course. Obviously, that's not hard to come up with. Is he a horse that you want to beat? Oh my God, of course you do. So, it's just about your approach to the sequence of what you're playing.
I just realized who Flightline is. And Catalina Cruiser. That's it. Flightline's Catalina Cruiser. Right? Catalina Cruiser, you just would run once every 4 months, run some lights out, huge buyer, and then you wouldn't see him, and then he'd come back and run again. I think Catalina Cruiser didn't even start till he was 4 though. But I don't know, it was funny because we had this discussion, and Caleb, I forgot where we had it. I think it was me, you, maybe it was me, you, Murphy, and Steven. We were playing League, and all of us were yeah, we look at the PPs again, and we all realized that we thought Flightline couldn't get the distance because we thought he was an Into Mischief or a Spitestown or something. We thought he was some kind of weird distance compromise pedigree, and turns out he's a Tappet. So the entire time we thought that he's not going to get the distance. Well, he technically does have the distance pedigree, but Caleb, is it just the price that's going to keep you off of Flightline?
It's not just the price, although the price is certainly a big part of it. It's the price and it's the unknown, right? And this is the very old cliche that I don't necessarily live by, but I think in this instance it applies is that you don't take a short price on a horse doing something for the first time. This is a horse that has not only has he never gone a mile and a quarter, he's never gone 2 turns. That's a 1 turn mile at Belmont, and that's one of the softer 1 turn miles in the country, given the very broad sweeping turns that they have and the long stretch. I mean, yeah, he had a little bit of trouble in there, but it's still. Point being is that this is a horse that has never come close to running at a mile and a quarter or 2 turns. And at 1 to 5, I don't believe it. I mean, maybe I don't believe it, but I will pay to be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will be fine with that. But I do not want to take Flightline at 1 to 5, stretching out an additional 2 furlongs and adding a turn. Just way too many questions for me for this horse. They manage him like he's made out of glass. I mean, I don't understand kind of what the deal is there. But I mean, as much as I think Flightline is an incredible talent, I mean, all the respect in the world. At
Horse
1 to 5,
generation.
yeah, I mean, he's not. I don't know if I'd say that, but at 1 to 5, doing this for the first time with all these question marks, like I will play against him, and he's not the kind of horse that any self-respecting horse player can use defensively. So you single him or you toss him. For me, he's going to be a toss.
I feel like you looked right into Mark's soul when you said no self-respecting horse player would use this horse.
We all know who that line was targeted at.
Yeah. I mean, you guys can see my PP, so you guys don't see any kind of mark next to Flightline, so I'm not using. But
no, I mean, if I'm playing this pick 5, Flightline's a single. There's no other horse in the ticket. Like I said, though, if I'm playing a tournament, I'm going to try to figure out the other horse, and I'm going to, because I'll get value there, even if the horse can run second. So I think it all depends on what you're doing and what the approach is.
And look, so I'm going to take the PPs down real quick because I feel like I want to talk to the viewers here. All right. So we talk about this all the time, right? Where we say that our viewers are much smarter than us. All right. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a look here, and I see Murphy saying single Flightline and move on. I see Charles saying single. He said CA single, so I'm guessing he means a California single. He even called it a free spot. And then, I don't know, Stephen Fox is probably memeing on you at some point. And Lloyd pointing out how great of a form he's in. Yeah, he's won every single race he's been in. I mean, I don't think it's any better. So we just want to point out how much smarter our viewers are than us. Because we are about to spend the next 15 minutes talking about horses that we think we can beat Flightline with. All right. So I just I want to give you guys a shout out. Give you you guys can go put it, pat yourself on the back, much smarter than us. But we'll get back here to the normal view here with the PPs. I'm using 2 horses here, and I think they're the other 2. I think they're probably the other 2 logical horses. Obviously, the 2 Country Grammar. I thought he was a little short last time, but I still thought he ran pretty well, especially for coming back from Dubai. We talk about it all the time. Horses always need one coming back from Dubai, or the Middle East, anywhere. And so, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to forgive that one. Hey, congrats, Royal Ship. I don't know if anybody had you anywhere. But I'm going to use Country Grammar here, and I'm going to use him most prominently in this spot. And then I'm going to back him up with kind of a B type at a humongous price with Stiletto Boy. Stiletto Boy, I feel like has run. He hasn't won yet at Del Mar, but I feel like he's run some pretty decent races at Del Mar outside of the Breeders' Cup Classic, where I don't really know what happened there, but I don't know. This is I think a horse that at his best is right there with the rest of them, and I feel like I am getting the price to play this horse. I mean, if this horse is really going to be 20 to 1, I don't know. there might be irresponsible wagers made, but yeah, I just don't think. I think that this horse at his best is right there with the rest of them. So I don't know. You guys are laughing, or at least Caleb's laughing. So I don't know if he must disagree.
No, I mean, I partially agree. I agree with you on Country Grammar 100%. And I think you can kind of expound your analysis beyond the Dubai layoff to say this is a horse that has every career win second off a layoff. I mean, second time as a maiden, he was laid up, briefly, but from Gulfstream to Belmont, came back to win the Peter Pan second off in Chad Brown's barn. Shipped overseas, didn't win the first time overseas, won second time out. This is a horse that just tends to need a start after a layoff. So I think that he's going to be sitting on a huge race. I mean, I'm not worried about the loss to Royal Ship last time out whatsoever. That being said, I'm going to use Royal Ship because if I'm going against Flightline, I am not going to be right that Flightline gets beat and not have a horse that I find a logical contender to beat him with. I think Royal Ship is a horse that on his day is extremely talented. He's not the most consistent, but he's extremely talented. I guess I kind of chuckled a little bit because we own Stiletto Boy on fantasy, and I want him to win this race. I really like Stiletto Boy as a horse, but I don't think he wants to go this far.
Who else do we own?
We own Country Grammar. I'm all in on him though. I got I'm getting team T-shirts made up and everything. Stiletto Boy, I don't think wants to go this far. I think he's better at a mile and an eighth or perhaps a mile and a 16th. But when he's tried stretching out to a mile and a quarter a few times, it hasn't quite worked. So he won't make my tickets begrudgingly, but I do think he's a cool horse. I guess the third horse I'm going to beat Flightline with is going to be Express Train, but he would be my third pick of Country Grammar and Royal Ship. But again, I'm not going to leave off a horse that I think has any realistic chance to beat Flightline if I'm playing against Flightline.
Do the morning lines in this race feel kind of odd to you? I mean, I realize Flightline's 1-5, and that does skew everything all over the place. But I was sort of surprised that Express Train was that long in comparison to somebody like, I don't know, Country Grammar or whoever else that's in here. It seemed like, I don't know. I mean, you really think that Express Train is 3 times as long as Country Grammar? I didn't think that their careers were that much, different, especially with how much Express Train likes Del Mar.
I think it's about right. Bovada has Express Train at 16-1. Country Grammar's at 5-1.
What do they have Flightline at?
Minus 300.
Oh. So what is that? 1-4, something like that, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's crazy that they're really gonna bet him. What do they got Country Grammar at then? 5-1, you said?
5-1. Which I think, I mean, anyone other than Flightline's a good price there. Royal Ship's 10-1. Stiletto Boy's 25-1.
Well, I mean, it's probably one of those races where if you're going to be tossing Flightline, you're trying to get around him, then just buy the race. Buy the other 5 in whatever sequence you're trying to play, because you're playing with the intent that he's doing something for the first time and he doesn't get the distance, or something goes awry or whatever. And, you don't care how you get around him because it's just going to pay absolutely buckets of money if you get around him.
So you're still using defensively?
I won't be playing the sequence, but whatever.
Really? I thought this was a pretty good sequence.
Oh, it's a great sequence. I'm just abysmal at Del Mar, man. And I'll be on track at Saratoga and playing Kentucky Downs as well, probably. So, I mean, 2 tracks is too many for me to keep up with. 3 is definitely too many.
Jay saying here he's got to give a shout out to Charles B. He mentioned earlier today all winners at KD were outside posts, made over 1K. So shout out to Jay and Charles. I mean, man, everyone's having a day. Jay, Charles.
See, they're all smarter and better horse players than we are.
Yeah, and they all like Flightline.
And they all like Flightline. Yeah, here we go. All right, last race here. We got the Del Mar Handicap going 1 mile and 3/8 on the turf. And once again, we got a nice field here. We got a field of 11. Your morning line favorite is Masterpiece at 3-1. Tis a Magician at 4-1. I mean, I'll tell you, man, Tis a Magician is going to be the biggest takeout reducer in this race because not only does he have no shot at winning, but he's a my racehorse. So this horse is gonna take a ton of money. He might even be the favorite. Like, oh my goodness. This is gonna be a really nice betting. Mark, set an alarm for when this race comes on because I guarantee you're gonna get the right price on whatever horse you like in this race. But yeah, I mean, I thought this is a pretty flat race, odds wise. You got Greg Dar at 5-1, then you got 6-1, 8-1 on a bunch of horses here. So, yeah, I didn't really know what to do in this race. This was a really tough race for me. I kind of had 4 horses I'm interested in, but I think they're all kind of price dependent, and they all are. I think there's the right price on each of these, but I don't know, Mark. Where did you kind of land here?
Oh, sure. Wait till I'm taking a sip of my beer before you call on me.
Well, I'm hacking
no.
up a lung, so.
So, okay, cool. While you hack up along, I ended up having a really hard time with this race as well. We talked a little bit about this race before we got on stream. I mean, I first off, I don't like Tiz Magician. Let's start out there. So we'll put him right in the winner's circle. I think top choice for me ended up being the 10 Master of Foxhounds. I realize he hasn't won in basically forever, and he does have a propensity for finishing second, but you're getting Juan up here. He should be controlling speed if he wants to be. I would imagine the intent here is to go to the front end, and I'd hope to try to be controlling pace here. I would imagine that gives him the best chance of winning, and that's what Juan did out of in that option 100 back in March of this year at Santa Anita. So I would imagine that's the intent here. As long as that is, I really kind of like him to get brave on the front end and take him as far as he can. I get 6-1. I'm okay with that. Again, realizing the fact that he doesn't like to win, so I thought he made a lot of sense. There's a couple of prices I thought were pretty interesting in here. Also thought it really interesting that Rispoli gets up on the 3 Greg Dar for the first time, a horse that is perfect over the Del Mar surface, and again taking a bit of a step back up in class here. He's one that maybe he was exposed those couple of other times that he took steps up in class, but definitely getting a jock upgrade. And Berto's been very hot at Del Mar, so maybe it's just a trip and jock dependent sort of thing. And there's no Hong Kong Harry in here, so we'll see what to make of Greg Dar. I'll throw it over to you guys because you have a better take at Del Mar than I do.
Yeah, and honestly, I would be all about Greg Dar if it wasn't for the distance. The distance just kind of worries me because we haven't seen him run at this distance. It seems like he's more of a mile type. And so the distance really, really puts me off of Greg Dar. I look at him perfect over the distance, but at the same time, those speed figures that he's run or not the distance, but at the track, they're a little bit lackluster. I mean, his best figures, fit in here fine. But I don't know. I didn't know what to do with the horse. I looked a little bit at the one Dicey Mochara, kind of same thing. Like the horse is 2-1-0 in 4 starts. You get Donnie V aboard. And if you look back at some of his distance races, Drayden was able to ride this horse to a second going 1.5 miles. If he can do that, Johnny V probably could have lapped the field on the horse. So, and you're getting all 15-1. So that was more of like for me, a price play. Wasn't so much that I thought he was a very likely winner, but I think that he definitely should be shorter than 15-1. And then I don't know, Masterpiece, I think is probably the best horse in the field, but what price are we going to get on him? He could be super short in this spot. I thought he ran a really nice race last time out. Maybe Hong Kong Harry catches him if Hong Kong Harry doesn't run into all the trouble. And we've seen this horse stretch out and run just fine. Ran second at a huge price in this race last year. So you're not going to get anywhere near that price this year, but I don't know. I had a lot of question marks. I didn't really know where to go. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough race. I guess I'm not surprised Mark went to Juan and Rispoli, but neither one of those horses really do a whole lot for me in this field. I think his Magician has to be controlling speed. I don't know what time form says. I don't really care. I think this is a horse that is extremely one dimensional and has to get the lead. Whereas Master of Foxhounds has passed a couple horses of it in his career. I don't know that they're quite as hell bent on getting to the front. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Josh. Masterpiece seems like the best horse in this field. I thought his last race was visually really impressive. I kind of hate taking a short price on Abel Cedillo, especially on a horse that won at 16-1 last out, and now I'm getting 3-1 today. But I thought that was a really impressive race. I mean, it's hard to find too much wrong with that. I guess the other horses that I sort of took a look at in here, my Dicey Mochara, I kind of agree with you, Josh. This is probably the best jockey he's had in quite a while. Actually, you could argue this horse is actually undefeated anytime he's had a halfway competent jockey with Flavien Prat posting a 2-for-2 record on him. And then the likes of Drayden and Tyler Bays and Abel Cedillo kind of filling out the rest of the record. So massive upgrade in the saddle there, but wasn't really a direction I was super strongly leaning towards. I actually landed on a horse that I never thought I actually would, but that's the number 5, Tango Tango Tango. And this is a horse that I've never liked in my entire life. I mean, I think he ran in the Bruce D last year, and yeah, I thought it was a pretty soft field. And then I've never liked this horse, but I kind of look at this field and I sort of want a new shooter. I mean, Red King, I think his best days are behind him, as much as I do love Hector Barrios. Horses like Tis Magician are on the wrong surface. Yeah, Masterpiece, I don't know, if he can repeat that last race. Whereas a horse like Tango Tango Tango, the one time they did stretch him out at Belmont, he came back with a really, really nice race. He won that optional 62, and he beat a couple nice horses in that field, including Soldier Rising, who has gone on to become a pretty nice horse in his own right. And I think this is a horse that should appreciate this distance here. He will kind of sit mid-pack off of likely Tis Magician and Master of Foxhounds. And yeah, I mean, he didn't really show a whole lot last time out. I think he got a little bit carried away trying to make an early move into a pace that was certainly on the quick side there in a race that really came back to the closers. If you look at the running lines of, Masterpiece, Hong Kong, Harry, and then Cathkin Peak, they were both well off the pace. So I think that Declan Cannon, as he is probably want to do, mistimed the ride a little bit. So I'm hoping to get a slightly better, more patient ride here. The pace is likely going to be on the slower side compared to what he saw last time. But yeah, I thought Tango 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 on the stretch out here, East Coast Invader made some sense.
Mark, weren't you all talking about Tango Tango Tango?
I was all talking about Tango 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 at what I thought was an absolutely stupid price. The jock is the number one thing that scares me. Declan has been pretty abysmal. But no, I thought time form says that Tango 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 should be right there when the smoke clears. So again, maybe this one just needed one. Sisterson's very good second off the layoff, so maybe just needed that last start. I don't really know what happened there, but yeah, I thought Tango 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 at a big price made a lot of sense.
Yeah, the other horse that I was interested in was the 4 Red King here, getting Hector Barrios aboard, and that was just kind of like this horse has got just like a shit ton of starts, but is one of the few horses that's actually somewhat accomplished at the distance. He's got 2 wins, 2 seconds and 2/3 in 9 tries, so distance isn't going to be a problem. I just don't know if the horse is fast enough. I think his best days are behind him, and I don't know what price I'm going to need on Red King here. I mean, at a time I believe they were shipping Red King over to the East Coast to try and fight for some wins over there. But I think those days are long gone. Rispoli's not aboard. I mean, Abel's not aboard. But you get Hector Barrios aboard, who's been able to move a horse up, but. I don't know. I just think that maybe he's just getting too long in the tooth. So I had questions, but was a horse I was interested in because the horse has had a little bit of success at Del Mar and has a lot of success at the distance, I think. So I I'll probably lean most heavily on Masterpiece, but by no means is he going to be like a single. I think in this spot, mainly because I'm a little scared to go to the funeral when I didn't go to the wedding. So, but anything else in here that you guys kind of want to talk about?
No, I'm good.
No, Mark.
No, I think I'm good.
All right, yeah, we covered a lot of races today, especially if you include those two stakes races at Saratoga that we were able to get through in record time, just despite Mr. Stephen Fox there. But yeah, scrolling there at the bottom, Saturday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna be starting a little bit later than normal. We'll be having a little Saturday starting gate. And we'll be talking Del Mar. We're gonna be focused on the West Coast. Caleb and I will be probably negative combined like $700 or $800. I'm guessing at Kentucky Downs by that point. But we'll be having fun still. But yeah, we'll be firing away at Kentucky Downs, we'll be firing away at Saratoga, and we'll be previewing some Del Mar. So it should be fun. And I'm gonna ask around. I'm gonna see who we can get. I know Mark's gonna be on site. Maybe I can convince him to call in for a second, but we'll see who we can get to jump on as a guest. Maybe I can twist Murphy's arm to come on before he flies over to Japan. But yeah, we'll take a look. I'll reach out and we'll get that posted. And thank you guys once again for showing up. I know it was kind of a slow start. But yeah, any feedback you guys have, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. And I don't know, maybe we'll do a giveaway or something. I got a couple extra shirts I ordered. We got coffee mugs and other stuff available on thewronglead.com. So maybe we'll do a little giveaway. Hopefully we can get to 1,000 by about Breeders' Cup. But what do you guys? So Mark, you're going to be on site for Saratoga this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be on track. Probably Saturday and Monday. Might play the Kentucky Downs tournament from home on Sunday. But yeah, I'll be around. Shoot me, ping me on Twitter or hit me on Discord and stop, say hi. I think I'm gonna probably have a box on Saturday.
Oh, look at this fancy guy.
Yeah,
Caleb, anything else going on this weekend besides me making you degen with me on Saturday afternoon?
No, just some DJing. I will say this is probably one of my favorite tournament weekends of the entire year. Not so much because of the cash tourney at Kentucky Downs, although it's a great tournament itself, but like it's the one weekend where all the featured races are tracks I don't hate. Like it's like the only weekend of the entire year that you can play a featured tournament that doesn't have Gulfstream. So like I think I looked at it and it was like Kentucky Downs, Saratoga, and Del Mar. So I'll probably be very involved in some tournaments. Just I typically do pretty well in Kentucky Downs tournaments. So going to try to get involved in some of the action there. And yeah, otherwise just some DJing.
If that's the featured card, I think we might need to put up a tournament. So I will. I'll take a look, and if we got those tracks, maybe we'll do a featured tournament. We can do a little bit of live play along while we're live on the Saturday starting gate, and yeah, I think it'll be fun. So we'll put that out there. But thank you guys once again for catching us on thewronglead.com. I forgot to post this week, but I'll be getting back to that this week. Excuse me. And then yeah, we'll be live on Saturday starting gate. I'll get that scheduled and tweeted out. And yeah, we'll catch you guys later.